Hello there and welcome to Author Diaries. This is a new series I want to share where I'll be talking about the experience of being an author, the experience of writing and putting a book together, and everything that comes together with it, all different perspectives and angles. Basically, I'm giving you all the behind the scenes and you can ask me all kind of questions and I'm happy to share all my experience to help you further your achievements and help you in possibly writing your book as well. I'm Lisa. I'm a hypnotherapist, neurohacker, and mental health advocate. And I work globally with my clients, breaking down the stigmas around mental health and translating neuroscience and psychology into easy everyday practice. And I'm the author of Pandemic Phoenix, which launched as an ebook beginning of the year and just launched as a print version as well. I just had the big launch event, which was such an exciting evening in itself. There'll be a separate episode about that where I'll be sharing some personal thoughts around this evening, some personal fears and anxiety states, and also negative and scared feelings around it. So stay tuned for that. But today I just wanted to kick this off to just get the series started and just get the excitement started, just dive into the topic and just give you a quick overview of what this will be about. So you might be an ambitious author, you might be a coach, you might be a therapist, you might be employed, you might be in any type of life situation, but you might have the drive to actually put something on paper, to share a story, to invent a story, to put something together that can either be of help to someone, that can portray a personal life story of yours, that can be something of bigger value for another person. And this already gets us into the first questions and the first thoughts that people share with me when we talk about the fact that I'm an author now and how I actually got to this point. So what I would always share in the beginning is go inwards. Go inwards and really feel what you're feeling. So this video is already about the question, how do I become an author? What do I write about? Those questions. And let me be very blunt. This is an answer that I give to anyone who asks me this question. If you don't know what to write about, then you should reconsider if you're at the right stage of starting to write, to be honest. I don't mean for this to come across as mean in any way or as demotivating, but this is definitely sharing from my personal experience. I exactly knew when I was supposed to start writing. I exactly knew what to write about. With my book, I always keep saying I subconsciously knew for quite some time already, for quite some months, I would say. And then at some point, it got me to the point where I literally woke up in the morning and I was like, this is it. Oh my God, this has to be a book. And this is how Pandemic Phoenix was born. It's my personal story of having battled the pandemic and negative mental states in the pandemic, having found myself in a time in my life that was really negative for me, where I suddenly started experiencing negative thought spirals, physical symptoms, even anxiety states. And I untangled that, I understood it, and I put it down into a concept that is easily understandable for others. And this is not just pandemic related, but life struggle related. And I had my conversations around this with people. I've already written an article around it, a LinkedIn article, and I had started sharing my thoughts around this topic. And that had been going on for a couple of months. I was also holding masterclasses and masterminds for global networks and for business networks and for universities, sharing my experience and sharing these thoughts with others and helping and providing valuable information to help others get themselves out negative states. And then a couple of months fast forward, I found myself this morning in Germany, waking up during a time when I was visiting my family. And I just woke up and I just knew. I just knew. I woke up and I was thinking immediately, you have to write a book about this. This has to be a book. And on that first day already, I downloaded a software because I'm a very visual person, so I need something that is visually appealing for me. So writing the book in a Word document didn't quite work for me, but this is going to be a separate episode in itself. So I downloaded the software. I already structured the entire book within the first day. And That's always how it works for me. When I get passionate around something, I just do, like, it's immediate just action and passion and just excitement and just getting into it. So that's definitely the feeling for me, which I believe is interpersonally different, but where I can definitely draw the conclusion from that if you haven't reached that point yet where you have felt that excitement, if you haven't reached the point yet where you really felt this deserves to be shared, then you should probably do some more reflection on why you're even thinking to write a book. And you should probably sit down with yourself and do some more introspective work and just really go deep, really go into what is my why here? Why is this important to me? Why do I feel like I want to do this? And really going into, am I just doing it so I can actually satisfy expectations that society puts onto me, that my parents might even put onto me, my friends might put onto me? Or is this really something that is coming out of me? And I think that's the best place to start. And that's quite the softer answer to the questions of how do I write a book and what do I write about? I think when people ask me that question, they want a clear answer and they want a clear, this is what you do first and this is what you do second, and a 10-step program of how to define a topic or something. But if you really want to produce something that comes from your heart, let it be nonfiction, fiction, let it be whatever you want to put on paper or whatever your ambition is, then should come from the heart. It should come from inside your heart, where you're really feeling this is it. And really know, and only you can tell. Only you can tell. So go inwards, only you can tell what this topic is. And you might already know it. As I said, I knew already months before subconsciously that this was going to become something. I had even talked about writing a book on my vision board, like years back. There's even the point, write a book. There's the picture for writing a book. But I hadn't quite internalized it yet. And so it took me to get myself to that point of really feeling it, that I could then kick it off. And what I can also share in addition to that, because that's another question I always get asked, how do you structure, what were your writer blocks? How do you structure the writing process? Seriously, I didn't have to structure it in a way that I had to force myself, because I was really, really acting from my passion. I wanted to get this on paper. I wanted to get this done fast as well, because I knew it was an important topic for people to read now, which is also a reason why I actually self-published my book, because I realized if I'm publishing with a publisher, it's going to slow down the entire process. And I know from an entrepreneurial point of view, if I'm passionate about something, I can produce a lot of pace, a lot of strength, a lot of productivity and efficiency. And so I didn't want to be slowed down by someone externally. And that, of course, meant there were more things I had to do myself. But I happily kind of took on that responsibility in exchange for being able to create something that was going to be of value for people and that I could put out as soon as possible. So that's what I did. It didn't feel hard to me to sit down and put my thoughts down. What I did when I had the idea was I was in Germany for another month and I had all my journals there in my flat. And I sat down. It was every day the same. I went to the park in the morning. I took my journal with me. I put my noise canceling headphones on. I put a very slow, deep house playlist on. I sat down next to the water and I was reading through my journals and writing for 3 hours. That's how long my battery lasted back then. By now, it's way less. And I was just pouring it out. It was just flowing out of me. I was no expectations, no nothing. How do I have to? How do people expect me to? How should I structure? Let your story speak. Just let your story speak. And for me, this is really what it felt like. This story was just flowing out of me. So I was reading through the journals, and whenever I had the need of putting together an abstract, I put it down. I just put notes down. I just scribbled it all down. I organized it in a way that I put it into the different chapters. And of course, that was only the start. That required then later on restructuring and feedback loops and the whole work cycle. That was a bit harder, but the actual writing process wasn't that hard, actually. I then would go home. I would do the same process in the afternoon, and I did that for days at a time. I was really making the most of my time in Germany whilst I was still with all my journals, because it was a big block like this of journals, which I couldn't all take with me to South Africa. So I had a bit of a deadline there. And when I went back to South Africa, what I then was feeling was I was starting to feel too good again. So I really had a bit of a pressure of getting this book done, because I could feel how my mind was trying to play things down. So I could literally feel how I was starting to feel too good again. And because of that, I was seeing things as less severe than they actually were. And of course, I wanted to put down the real story to its depth, with all its very negative thoughts and everything. So, of course, my journals aided me there and really getting back into that state and really rereading those thoughts that I had put on paper during that negative time in my life. So I put it all down, and I made sure that I put it down in time to really, really capture the negativity to the level that it deserved, so I wouldn't forget how negative it was, how toxic it was, because that's what our mind does. Once we actually lived through a negative moment, our mind will play it down. If we're having a fight with someone, afterwards, when you're looking back to it, your mind will play it down. And then suddenly, that's also why it's so hard to leave a relationship, because suddenly, I always call it nostalgia effect. Suddenly, it doesn't seem as bad anymore. And the good things are the things that your mind is reminded of. And you don't want to think about the negative things, because the negative things represent pain. Our mind by default doesn't like pain, is always going to move away from pain. And that is something that I was feeling as well. And of course, because I know how to untangle this, I understood what my mind was doing. So I knew I had to act quick. I knew I had to put this book together. And that is what I did. And then from there on, I did the further feedback loops. And then a couple of months later, my book was launched as an ebook. So that was basically, in a nutshell, the writing process, what it felt like. From here on, this was just the first introduction. From here on, we'll be diving into the different aspects. You can obviously just put down questions or just reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer those questions in the next episodes, and really dive into the different topics of how to actually organize this as well. I'll make sure that it'll be a balance between talking about my feelings and the mind states, but also talking about the technical aspects and what type of softwares I use, and really guiding you through the process, and hopefully you can learn a lot in the process. So really excited for you to check it out. If you want to read more about the book already, you can just click on the link below in the description, and I'm really excited to share more information in the next episodes. So stay tuned, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you then.